The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
I'd like to share with you a tremendous story. A story that I heard recently from Rav Shlomo Levenstein Shalit, and I'll tell you honestly, I know over the years that I myself had said a few wild stories, but this one is out of this world. And I'll be honest, I could never have the shoulders to say something like this if I didn't hear it from Rav Shlomo Levenstein himself straight, the Maggid of Bnei Brak. Let me share this with you. He says over that there's a Rabbi Yosefi Shalita, a great tzaddik Gaon, who gives classes to Persians in Bnei Brak on a weekly basis. He's known to be a great tzaddik. He's a leader of the Persian community there on the outskirts of Bnei Brak in Israel. Well, one evening, one Wednesday night, after Rabbi Yosefi gave his shmooze, his class, right after the shiur, one of the guys runs up and they say, "Rav, please, can you do me a favor? I have a very good friend, a chayal, a soldier, who just came back from the army. He's not religious, but worse. He's totally kofer. He doesn't believe in Borei Olam. He doesn't believe that there's a God. Please, Harav, could you speak with him a few minutes? Maybe you can put inside him a little emunah bitachon b'Hashem. Help him. I want so much to be machzir this friend b'tshuva." Rabbi Yosefi said, "Absolutely. Please, tell him to come. I'll speak to him." "Yeah, but Rav, I don't know how to explain this to you. But this friend, he does not want to come into the shul. Shuls get him very nervous. He's scared. He walks into the shul. The avirah, the air of the shul is going to be mashpi on him somehow. He doesn't want to get out of the car. But he's right now outside in front of the shul in the car. Can you go outside, please? Does the Rav mind sit with him in the car for a few minutes and talk to him?" Rav Yosefi says, "Okay." He goes outside. He sees the man sitting in the car. He comes inside the car. He sits down. And right away, before Rabbi Yosefi could say a word, this Israeli chayal, he turns to the rabbi and says, "Be'emet, Harav, tochiach li, prove to me, sheyesh Elokim, that there's a God." Wow, Rabbi Yosefi says, "Zeo? That's all you want? You just want me to prove to you that there's a God? That there's a Borei Olam? Oh, that's not a problem. Come, I'll show it to you." He turns to the chayal. "Tell me, did you hear about Moshe Rabbeinu?" "Yes, yeah. Of course, I heard about Moshe Rabbeinu, yes." "Well, did you know that after Moshe Rabbeinu grew up in the house in the castle of Paro, Vayigdal Moshe, Moshe came out to his people and he began to help them and work with them. And one day Moshe Rabbeinu saw an Egyptian taskmaster whipping a Jew, and he was about to kill him. And Moshe Rabbeinu ran and he killed the Egyptian, and a miracle happened and the ground opened and swallowed the body. And Moshe thought that no one saw, but lo aleinu, two people be'emet did see. And they went and they told on him to Paro, and how much it hurts that they were from us, Jews, who went to tell on another Jew, Malshin. Moshe Rabbeinu at that moment was in danger. Paro went and arrested Moshe, and he passed judgment. "Moshe Rabbeinu, you killed the Mitzri. Your head is going to be cut off. B'saif, they're going to carry out the execution." And it was at that moment that the Midrash tells us that they took Moshe Rabbeinu and they tied him up, as Rabbi Yosefi explained to the soldier. They tied him up and they laid him down. They laid him completely down on a large rock. And they bent Moshe's head all the way down so that his neck would be stretching its way out and be bolet, so it'll be easy for the executioner to bring down the sword on his neck. It was at that moment, says Rabbi Yosefi to the soldier, that Hashem made a great miracle. The executioner came, raised the sword, brought it down on the neck of Moshe Rabbeinu, and a miracle happened. His neck became marble. It became shayish. And when the sword, the blade, hit the marble, it bounced right back up and killed the very executioner. It was at that moment that Moshe Rabbeinu was able to leap up and run away. And that's the story of Midian. Rabbi Yosefi turns to the soldier at that moment and says, "No? You still don't believe there's a God? You still don't believe in Borei Olam? Who turned Moshe Rabbeinu's neck into marble? Of course, Hashem. There has to be a Hashem. You see, I proved it. There's a Hashem in the world." This Israeli soldier looks at the rabbi and he bursts out laughing. He says, You gotta be joking. That's your proof? You tell me this whole story about Moshe Rabbeinu and his neck turning into marble? And because of that, there's a God? I don't believe in Moshe Rabbeinu. I don't believe in his neck turning to marble. And I don't believe in the whole thing. This is your proof, Rabbi. Wah, wah, wah. And the Israeli just burst out laughing. Well, Rabbi Yosefi says, okay. Said that. You're not mikabel? All right. Rabbi Yosefi picks himself up and he walks out of the car. And that was it. Well, my friends, open your hearts. Wait till you hear the end of this story. A year later, this particular Israeli soldier, like many, when they get that time, after they did their time in the army, they get a year or so in Chofesh, and they're able to go out to anywhere in the world. He went out to Japan. And sure enough, he got mixed up with the wrong people. And somehow, he started dealing with the Japanese Mafia. And push came to shove, he actually became part of the Japanese Mafia. He had military training. He knew how to survive. He was very smart, street smart. He fit in perfectly to the Japanese underground. One time, one of the Mafia bosses gave him a large amount of money to deliver to someone on the other side of town. It was a very large amount of money. So this Israeli guy made a terrible mistake, and he said, you know what? I'll just tell him that I lost it, and he kept the money for himself. When the word got back to the Mafia boss that this Israeli guy, he kept the money for himself, claiming that he lost it, he sent out people looking for him everywhere. And after 2 months of hiding, they finally found him, and they brought him back to the Mafia boss. It was at that moment that the boss said, you stole from me? That's it. Kill him. He decided on the execution, he must die, to show everybody else and to make a statement of what happens when you steal from the Mafia. How are we to kill him? The boss says, cut off his head. At that moment, they grabbed the Israeli. They put his hands behind his back. They tied him up. They laid him down flat on a table, and they took his head, and they bent his head all the way down so that his neck would protrude and stick out completely, so that when the sword comes down on the neck, it'll be able to do its justice. It was at that moment that the Israeli began to cry out in a cold sweat. It was at that moment that he remembered Rabbi Yosefi in Israel a year and a half earlier. It was at that moment that everything started coming flooding back. Moshe Rabbeinu, Paro, the story that the rabbi told him. It was that moment that he remembered that the rabbi told him, Afilu cherev chada munach al tzavaro al tityaesh. You see this God? You see this Borei Olam? At the last second, Hashem saved him. He changed his neck to marble. At that moment, this Israeli was thinking about the entire Rabbi Yosefi episode of Moshe Rabbeinu and his neck turning marble. And the man closed his eyes and he screamed, Borei Olam! If you really exist, now's the moment to save me. Now, at the last second, I'm not being mityaesh. I'm crying out to you. If you save me, I'll be choser b'tshuva 100%. I'll go back to Eretz Yisrael. I'll go back to Rabbi Yosefi. I'll be choser b'tshuva. I'll come back to you, Hashem. At that minute, the executioner raised the sword. He was about to bring it down on this Israeli man's neck, and the door to the room opens, and in walks the Mafia boss wife. And she says, stop! Wait 1 second. This guy? This Israeli guy? You're killing him? You can't kill him. Remember a few years back when there was the great earthquake in Japan? That day, the ground cracked open. There was a tremendous hole in the ground, a crevice, and my son fell in, and he was being sucked in to the earthquake. And this guy, this Israeli guy, jumped in and saved my son. We owe him. Whatever he did, he saved my son's life. Let him go. When they heard that, the executioner stepped away from the table. They untied him, and they sent him to the airport. The man got on a plane, first plane back to Israel. He comes straight to Bnei Brak, runs into Rabbi Yosefi's shul, grabs, hugs, and kisses the rabbi, and screams, bring me tefillin, I want to say Shema Yisrael. You got to hear my story. Yeah. The words of the Rabbanim, the words of the rabbis. Yeah, at the time, we laugh. At the time we think it's a joke. At the time we even look at the rabbi with that eyebrow in the air. What are you telling me? What are you saying? But tedah lecha, what was told to you was meant for you to hear. And the words that came out of the rabbi's mouth was Devar Hashem. This is Da'at Torah. These are the Urim V'Tumims of today. No matter how right we think we are, no matter how L'Shem Shamayim we believe to be, we must ask on everything in life. And whatever the rabbi tells us, those words are Kodesh Kodashim. We have to take it to heart. This is Rabbi Duvi Bensoussan.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org